from Vice President Harris posting a picture of her departure to Singapore to New York Senator Chuck Schumer dancing backstage at a concert with Stephen Colbert. Top Democrats are being slammed for their tone deafness handling of the Afghanistan crisis that's still growing. Here to react, former UFC fighter and Special Forces sniper Tim Kennedy. Tim, thanks so much for being here. We don't even mention the imagery of Nancy Pelosi in Napa Valley at a fundraiser, shoulder to shoulder. You know, she's Queen Mask. No one there is wearing a mask. So seemingly not all that interested or concerned about what our boys are facing and our allies are facing on the streets of Kabul, Afghanistan. Yes, life goes on, Tim. I know not everyone's life has to orbit around what's happening there. But if you're a leader in this country and you're finishing a 20-year war, wouldn't you be a little bit more focused on how people view your activity at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that we're completing a 20-year war. Right now, in this very moment, you know, we've had dozens of people killed trying to get into the airport. We've had security forces murdered. Taliban, who we've been fighting for the past 20 years, controls all of Afghanistan, and they're able to do anything that they want within the city, and they're now provoking Americans, the military forces that we have, trying to help get Americans out. So it's not just the tone deaf of what's happened for the past 20 years, but currently people are being whipped in the street, being stoned to death, and you're dancing in the streets? Come on. I mean, it's embarrassing and pathetic.
Well, and not to mention they have constituents, likely American citizens or veterans who had translators or partners there on the ground, probably calling their office. We had Tom Cotton on earlier, who himself was invested in that fight and so is, I'm sure, doing a lot more than those offices. But you have people in need at this moment, as you said. And Joe Biden, so far at the podium, hasn't presented any sort of a plan. Is that not of a concern to them?
I don't know what they're thinking. Obviously, they're not thinking.
They don't care.
I could go to my 6-year-old and ask, how are you going to get 15,000 people out of Afghanistan? And we would get a form of a plan. To a degree, hey, I'm going to put some airplanes here. We're going to have some helicopters. Like, my 6-year-old can do that. But at this moment, we have NGOs, nonprofits, some incredible people, No One Left Behind, Mighty Oaks Foundation. I mean, just thousands of people coming together to try and get Americans and Afghanis and our partners vetted out safely while people are dancing in the street. You know, like this is the biggest blemish, I think, in American history. You even trying to compare it to Saigon, the scale of how disastrous this is to our partners and the strategic level of messaging that this sends throughout the world. I don't know how long it's going to take us to recover from this.
It's a great point. The world is watching this. But I also can't help but wonder, it's not Chuck Schumer's kid. It's not Kamala Harris's kid. It's not Nancy Pelosi's kid that was over in Afghanistan for 20 years. Fighting to secure something there. Maybe they're just not, maybe it's just not important to them. Strategically, you know, how it ends, meh, what does it matter?
That's a great point. It's never their kids. You know, it's always the brave men and women going over there that choose to fight. These aren't the children of the elites. These are the children of people that bleed red, white, and blue, that believe in the dream of being American and the idea of freedom. And there's Afghanis and partners and allies and translators that are over there that have fought that same fight, that have that same dream. But there's also very dangerous terrorists that are trying to use all this chaos, all this anarchy, and all this mayhem to try and get into the United States. So the balance of trying to bring in our allies and our friends safely, all the while providing security to get our Americans out, I mean, this is so dangerous of a time, and it has to be handled with care. And it's not the children of these people doing all of this dangerous work. Like always, it's the backbone of America doing the heavy lifting.
Absolutely. Exit question here, Tim. But, you know, our president did have a son, a deceased son now, who served. He talks about the troops often. Yet at this moment, when those Americans need our government and our ferociousness, he's unwilling to. In fact, relying on the Taliban, who we know wants us nothing but out so they can ruthlessly utilize that vacuum to their own benefit, to include potentially hostages. If Tim Kennedy was in charge, what would happen right now to get our people home?
I mean, it's so simple. When somebody asks, what would you do? I would bend time. I would use every single resource available in not just the military, between the Department of State, our intelligence agencies, to get Americans out. Every American needs to know that there are plenty of people that are capable and willing and have the ability to get everyone out of that country in a moment's notice. This could be over by tonight. If the president willed it and he said, you know what we're going to do? You're American. We're coming to get you. If you want to leave that country, we have the ability, the capability, and the bravest and most powerful military on the planet that's going to come and get you out in a matter of hours. This whole entire evacuation problem would be solved. But I don't know why we still have people there that need help.
It's true. And one simple message to the Taliban: you harm one hair on the head of an American, and we'll bomb you back to the century you came from until every single American comes home. That's the calculation they understand. Tim Kennedy, thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.